Hello, everyone. I'm Asha Nayaswami, and this is
I'm
Jaya.
Jaya.
Jaya. And Jaya is speaking to us from Ananda Village, where she lives with her husband and works running the meditation bench manufacturing plant, which is a rather big word for a wonderful little workshop they have up there and the product they sell. So, Jaya, tell us a little bit about where you came from, where you grew up, what kind of a child you were, what you were interested in.
Okay. So I was born and grew up in Argentina.
Uh-huh.
And let's see, I was a very serious kind of child.
Uh-huh.
Was watching and observing.
Uh-huh.
And for the most part, I did not like people.
Oh,
Only those few. Like I have my favorites, and those were the only ones that I would interact with.
really? And,
And
and were your favorites anybody in your family? I mean, just for your family's sake?
my family, they were okay.
Okay. But outside your family, just a
Outside
few.
my family, yeah,
Mhm.
I was not very social, and I'm still tiny, so I was always tiny little kid,
Uh-huh.
and people, would be like, "Oh, she's so cute, hello," and I'm just like, and thankfully I grew out of it after I became a teen.
Were you shy, or were you just like you just weren't interested?
No, I think I was both very sensitive, but also not interested.
You were what, not interested?
No.
Did you have an inner life, or were you just sort of in rebellion against being here at all?
Interesting. I don't think I had an inner life then.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I was in rebellion. I never thought about it.
Uh-huh. But you just weren't interested in what was going on.
Yeah, no,
Were you unhappy?
I don't think so. No, I have the best memories of my childhood.
Uh-huh.
I was always very close with my younger sister.
Uh-huh.
We were an item. We were always this duo,
Uh-huh.
and we just had a great time. My parents were always loving. We we grew up in a big house with a nice yard and a swimming pool, so we were always outdoors. No, life was good. School was good.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't know that I was always a little bit that way,
Well,
kind of.
sometimes when a person is a twin, which if you were really close with your sister, it might have been sort of like that. It's like, that's enough. I don't need
Yeah.
I don't need to get any bigger than this. Yeah. So what happened when you got to high school? You started to say things changed then.
Um, I don't know if there's anything specific, but I was more social, just outgoing. That thing about people just having some favorites kind of went away.
It went away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have any particular interests? Were you a good student? Did you have hobbies or anything?
I was an average student.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I always did well in school, but I wasn't an A student either.
Uh-huh.
Um, I went to a private school, very small, and so we had good friends. We did just a lot of fun stuff. We traveled. I was kind of always in charge of organizing, fundraisers or
Uh-huh.
uh, trips or things like that. So I had a good time. The school and high school was a good experience. I still quite don't. Um, Now I see the typical American high school experience, and I just don't get it. I mean, I understand it, but it's like it doesn't need to be like that.
You mean rebellion and
Yeah,
angst and that sort of thing? Yeah.
and my parents are all dumb,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just gonna dye my hair, and you know,
It didn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to you.
doesn't. High school was a good, happy time.
I'm just going to ask a different question. Spanish presumably was the language you spoke growing up, but you have a noticeable lack of accent. I mean, I only hear it occasionally. Did you start speaking English at a younger age, or?
Well, we do study English when from pretty much first grade,
Uh-huh.
but always kind of the same. You kind of get to high school and you still know the very basics. Um, I studied after high school a few years on a like a private
Uh-huh.
institute. That's something common to do.
Uh-huh.
It was really when I came here. When
I
I came here, I just so picked it up pretty quickly.
well, I was just curious. You know, it's I only speak English, so I have no experience about how this works, but you know, just how
Yeah.
things shift around. Did you ever contemplate the meaning of life, or did that question not occur to you when you were growing up?
Um, When I was little,
Uh-huh.
I would. I remember just lying in bed at night. I always was afraid of the dark.
Uh-huh.
So, in some of those nights, I remember thinking, and it was like this visual thing of me and the planet and what was outside the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like thinking, well, once I die, what's gonna happen? That can't just be the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like me, the planet, and then there was nothing, and then nothing. I
Uh-huh.
thought can be another me and another planet somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
But um, yeah, that was a kind of a recurrent thought.
Was that in the context of being afraid of the dark? I mean, was that a fearful thought for you, or was it just something you'd
No,
spent?
it was just a question. It was a question. Yeah.
Was there any spirituality in your home? Oh, were you Catholics?
No. No, we were not brought up Catholics. My mom and my dad were Catholics, but not very active.
Uh-huh.
But my dad, he's a disciple of Master.
Uh-huh.
He was ever since before I was born.
Oh, since so you were born into a family where a master was already there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know it? Were there pictures of him around? Did he talk to you about master?
Yes, there were pictures of him. He had his own center, so that was very much part of his life. He was a vegetarian. He, yeah, he would definitely make us kids part of that spiritual life. He would bring us to, like Shivaratri and Guru Purnima. Um, we had friends, like the other kids from the group.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Was it personally meaningful to you?
Yeah, I actually really liked going to the center growing up.
Uh-huh.
I'm there. And there are particular things that were always exciting. Like um, he would tell my sister and I that we could, if we wanted, we could do astral traveling.
Ah, uh-huh.
Because we would watch movies about magic, and he said, "Well, it is within you. You can do it." And I remember he would tell us, "Well, first you have to sit quietly for whatever 10 minutes."
Uh-huh.
And you would try that, and it was really hard.
Uh-huh.
So um, you knew that eventually, maybe first you needed to work on getting quiet, being quiet for 10 minutes.
It was very smart of your dad. Yeah. Do you have any like first memory of seeing Master's picture, or your first sense of Master? Did it come to you when you were still living with your parents?
Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't think before I actually started meditating.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. It was
So,
common. We were used to it. There were pictures everywhere.
uh-huh.
Uh, it was very Indian type. So like pictures of Ganesha and little statues for everywhere. So I was very comfortable with it. I really liked chanting.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I don't think master necessarily particularly.
Not in particular. So how did it progress? Then you finished high school, which you enjoyed. Did you go to university, or what did you do after you finished high school?
I did. I went to college right away. I didn't finish.
Uh-huh.
I was studying psychology.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I wanted to do some sort of education. I want to work with kids
Uh-huh.
and but I wanted to fuse that with meditation,
Uh-huh.
psychology, but I didn't really know how. But I never graduated because I came here.
Yeah, I never graduated either, so we're all in good company. Some of my best friends are college dropouts. like Swami Kriyananda, so it's all okay. So by that point, you knew that meditation was important. So were you a disciple before you went to college? When did you feel you became a disciple?
Well, I started meditation in high school, actually.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was, as I said before, I was very sensitive always, and I think when I was maybe about 15, emotions were just really something I could not handle. I think I was always just going up and down and feeling very affected by everybody else and their expectations. Um, I always grow up with people telling me that I was very mature
Mm-hmm.
for my age. So then there was a little bit of, oh, I have to live up to that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Um, and and anyways, and then at some point my dad said, well, why don't you try meditation? It's going to help with controlling your emotions and controlling that sensitivity. So I think I was 16 when I started.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that was the beginning for sure of my own spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
Started because I wanted to control my emotions, but I remember one of like the second classes that I was taking on the course, my dad spoke about the concept of God as Satchitananda,
Mm-hmm.
and that just
Ah,
God, I never had a relationship or a thought about God.
yeah.
I just didn't feel like there was a need, or I don't know, it was out of the question. And when I heard that God is a state,
Uh-huh.
that makes so much more sense.
Uh-huh.
And then the newness of it.
Uh-huh.
I remember that very clearly, just really opened.
That's wonderful. So by 16, you're pretty serious on the spiritual path. Would you call yourself serious, a regular meditator? And you
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so college was an effort to find a way to use that because you were already thinking about meditation and psychology.
Yeah.
But instead you said you came to the USA, you came to California. So how old were you when you first came to Ananda?
When I first came to Ananda, I was 21.
Uh-huh.
We came on a short trip, 1 week trip to meet Swami.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that,
And we was your father and yourself and
yeah, it was my dad, Nanda Devi, who
uh-huh.
was here yesterday. We
Yeah.
very much friends growing up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, as we were teens, we were together in the center for years, years and years. And now we actually work together. We're both here, we work together.
Amazing. Uh-huh.
And then another friend of us, Guru Priya. It was four.
Okay. And so you came to meet Swami Kriyananda because you were in Argentina and you heard about him, you learned about him?
Yeah, we learned there was a living disciple, direct disciple of Yogananda,
Uh-huh.
and we came to meet him.
Uh-huh.
And then there was Ananda, but Swami was for sure why we came.
So what was your first meeting with him like?
It was wonderful. The first time we went on a private uh, meeting with him in LA.
Oh,
And
Los Angeles, right. Okay.
yes, it was 2010. He was in LA. And I don't know, it was like nothing I have experienced before. It just I think at that point for me was through my dad, like seeing my dad connect
Uh-huh.
and seeing him vulnerable, and Swami called him a brother. It was more through him, my experience. I felt more like an spectator.
Huh.
But hindsight, it was very blissful.
So your father, I just love this picture. Your father brings you all the way from Argentina to put you at the feet of this great disciple. And then for your father, it's this profound meeting between himself and Swami. That's what you were saying.
Yes,
Swami called him brother. That's very touching. And so, but then by extension, that all comes into you. Is that what you were?
yes, yes. I remember they were talking, and Swami started crying, and then my dad started crying, and then we all started crying.
Oh my goodness. Why did Swami start crying?
I don't I don't know. He was, I think is when he called him my brother. He
Uh-huh.
like, that emotional, I don't know if emotional would be the word, but um kind of, when you're talking and your voice kind of breaks down.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at that time in Swami's life, his feelings were all on the surface. Undoubtedly, he recognized your father and probably all of you from some past life experience, of closeness. My goodness, what a wonderful thing to be part of. So, did you feel changed by that? How did that experience of Swamiji, did it make a difference going forward in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. That experience, it's just, it became a before and an after.
Really?
The
Uh-huh.
whole,
Uh-huh.
even though we're here short, and I was offered to stay longer at the village and I was ready to go home. I think it was just too much.
So the opposite of wanting to stay, it was too much, meaning you just couldn't integrate it, or what?
Yeah, I think it was energetically was just too much information. We were here on a 1 week tour and we did not stop. I
Uh-huh.
mean, there's so much to see, so many people, all the names.
Uh-huh.
Even though it felt great, I was ready to go home.
Uh-huh.
Give me a sense of normalcy, I think.
Uh-huh.
But actually, it was um, um, something with Swami that it definitely changed me was an email I sent him
Uh-huh.
back home. Um, I was feeling the I was feeling the pull between my spiritual life and the rest of my life.
Right.
College, I had a partner, we
Uh-huh.
were together, I had friends, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there was a disconnect.
Right.
And that was most common for people down in Argentina. Not a lot of people had an inner life, and I don't know, for some reason in my circle, there's usually, if there was a partner, there was usually one that was interested and the other one was either fighting it or
Mm-hmm.
trying to go behind. But, there was always a disconnection, and I was feeling that. And I thought that it didn't need to be like that way. And I needed to make a change or something. So my dad said, "Why don't you write Swami? Just write
Mm-hmm.
it." And I'm like, "What? Me? Like this little tiny issue? Like he has other things to do." No, no, just write him. I'm like, "Okay, I wrote it and I sent it." And he replied,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "What?" He replied. Uh, and, it was just really sweet. And he basically said, "Why don't you come to the village? There are a lot of young people now that I think it would be good for you to experience."
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, fine, but it's not like I booked a flight right away. I'm like, okay,
Right.
sure. But I went about my life.
Uh-huh.
But that, and I still revisit that email because it's what he told me there is just everything that happened for me.
Wow.
And, it's just
So
very touching.
when did you book your flight? How long did it take you from the email to book the flight?
So, no, maybe a year and a half.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was always in the back of your mind that Swami had sent that invitation.
Yes.
And then suddenly it was just the right moment, or did your life fall apart, or what happened?
No, nothing fell apart. It's just this growing longing and longing for Ananda because I
Right.
remember just going online and just looking for anything I could find.
Mhm.
Pictures. I remember there's still this video that Rachel Anderson and I don't know, Sundra Rose, they all put together. That it was, I think, for Living with Spirit.
Uh-huh.
And I just remember watching that video over and over and over and over.
Over and over. Isn't that interesting? Because those were your people. You just didn't know it yet.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
exactly.
one day I just booked the flights
Mhm.
and I was in a partnership with someone and I said I'm going and
Mhm.
I don't know when I'm coming back, if I'm coming back, so I think we just need to end this.
Mhm.
I was in summer vacation for college, so I technically came for 2 months,
Mhm.
but kind of open-ended. In
Mhm.
my mind, but I'll just travel. If somebody invites me to travel or there is opportunity, I'll just go around the US and
Mhm.
just get to know. But I,
What year was that then?
that was 2012.
2012. So Swami was still living in 2012. Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
arrive at Ananda village and you're there for 2 months, but you never leave? Is that you just came and stayed at that point? When did you, I know you're married now to Christian. When
Mhm.
did you meet him in all of that?
Um, I met him pretty early on, but it never occurred to me that we were going to end up together.
I see.
He felt like this soul friend
Uh-huh.
that, um, yeah, like we were going to always be friends. But I wasn't attracted to him in a romantic or physical way at all.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. I came for a month to do karma yoga, then I extended it and a little more until my visa. And I don't know, somewhere in there, we realized that we were going to be together.
Mhm. So was that sort of the tipping point? I mean, obviously he was very important to you. So that just kind of clinched the deal at that point, you might say.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I decided to stay longer, I remember just wanted to go tell him because, no, I remember thinking, well, if there are people like this here, I want to stay. If there's more like this here, I want to stay. And then really wanted to go tell him. And he said he was interested at that point, but I didn't notice. And yeah, definitely when we got together, it's like, okay, there are more reasons. But even then, because visa stuff and immigration, it was kind of you have to live by the month and see
Yeah.
what was gonna happen.
Yeah, that's the truth. So, what did Ananda feel like to you when you arrived as a 20 something from a, I mean, fortunately, the language wasn't it doesn't seem like it was a major obstacle, but you're in a new culture, in a new place. Did it feel like home? Did it feel foreign to you?
No, I did not feel boring.
Uh-huh,
The language was more of a barrier at the beginning,
uh-huh,
you know, big groups or meetings.
uh-huh.
But I don't know. It wasn't a big deal. Yeah, it felt like everything I've always wanted. That integration that I was seeking
Right.
was the main thing. Just, how people went from meditating to their jobs and to, I remember seeing couples. I think that was the first time I've seen couples that were together in the past.
I see. Well, because you had said at home in Argentina, there was always just half of the couple was so now,
Yeah,
yeah,
including my parents. My dad was always a disciple. My mom now is, but at that
mhm,
point she wasn't.
I see.
It
So even yeah,
was harmony still,
yeah,
there was inspiration as well.
right. So how did you imagine? Did you have any picture of what your life would be like at Ananda, or did you care? I mean, did you have any personal? Have you any personal sense of like this is what I have to give? These are the things I have to develop. How did
No,
you see yourself as a disciple?
hmm. No, not really. It was just all developing.
Mm-hmm.
And I still to this day I don't have you know, what am I giving? It's more someone once said, "Oh, Jaya, what do you want to do for, your life? Like what's your mission?" And I'm like, and then this good friend of mine that she knows me well, she says, "She just becomes whatever needs to happen." And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "Yeah, that's pretty good."
Uh-huh. No,
Um,
that is pretty good. Yeah. So you're comfortable with that.
yeah, yeah. I think so. I'm growing more and more comfortable with it.
I mean, I endorse it. I'm not, I think that's great. I mean, our mission is to realize God. And after that,
Yeah.
whatever He gives us, I think to become whatever is needed is a really good way to think about it. When you think about your life going forward as a disciple, is that how you see it? Or is there any picture in your mind of who you would like to be as the years go by? Not so much even what you would do, but who you would like to be.
Mm. Yeah, as far as who I would like to be,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Um, just continue growing. And there is a lot of, there is a lot of areas that need work, that need edges smoothed, and just continue expanding. But outwardly, I don't have a vision for myself.
There's no reason why you should. Master knows. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find the spiritual path joyous or arduous? Do you think more about the joy of it or the challenge of it?
Interesting. Before it was all about the challenge, almost like if there was challenge, you're growing.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if that was the Catholic in Argentina, but that was kind of the focus. Sorry. But as when I came to Ananda, it felt, before Ananda, it felt like, let's combat the darkness with, let's just put light on the darkness. Right? Let's just really focus on it and, work on it hard. And at Ananda, more felt like, let's put light where there is light, and then darkness will disappear by doing that, the darkness will disappear. And so there is still a little bit of both in me, for sure. But that's this sense of more joy. It's definitely stronger now.
Very good. When you came in 2012, did you see Swamiji again?
No.
You didn't see him. So that one time in Los Angeles, was that the only time that you saw him there?
Yeah, we saw him maybe 2 or 3 times in Los Angeles. But yeah, that was it.
Isn't that interesting? Is he still a living part of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. When the night he passed, I think that was the first time that I felt something else towards Swami. For me, it was all about Master. But Ananda was through Swami, but that was it. And then the night he passed, I remember we got this phone call, and I think it was Davy, and I picked up. It was a message, and I thought I was misunderstanding. I thought, okay, my English is late here, Christian, just what's happening? And he was passed. So I remember we were walking to Hansa at night to meditate, and just remember looking at everything and just feeling this gratefulness for the first time, sort of sank in. Like, I'm here, we all here, Ananda, because of you, and I'm just really deeply thankful. And yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. That was quite a night. He died at 8 a.m. in Europe, so it was 11, almost midnight here.
Yeah.
So we were all getting up in the middle of the night and going into the temples to meditate all over the world. Yeah, that was quite a moment. So Jaya, what are you doing now? Now you live at Ananda Village with your husband, Christian. And what work do you do? What are you becoming?
Yeah, I'm the manager of a small business here in the meditationbench.com. It's a private business that was started by a family, by the Kressman family many years ago, and it's just a great online business for meditation supplies, and we manufacture. I do the whole thing, everything, as you do in a small business.
Yeah. And from your smile, you enjoy it?
Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's very varied and it's fun.
And as it happens, your friend from Argentina, Nanda Devi, you've traveled this whole path together. And now you're here doing this. Isn't it remarkable?
It is. It really is. We always, people confuse us a lot still. We're the same person, or who are you? Are you married to Sundara? But a lot of people in Argentina was the same thing, and even Swami asked if we were sisters. So we definitely feel like sisters.
It's the Divine Mother is very sweet with her gift of brothers and sisters in this family. Well, thank you very much, Jaya, for telling us all that. That was a really touching story. I loved hearing it. I love hearing too about your father. I mean, he helped bring you and he helped bring Nanda Devi to Master, and he's Swamiji's brother in spirit. It's just what a great you have very, very, very good karma. Very good for you. Yes, I know. Well, thank you, dear. God bless you.